Hello, viewers of Open Horn of Africa. This is our Future Africa program, and today I'm joined by Mr. Al-Harez El-Shabani from Libya, and Mr. Al-Harez is here with us to discuss some important pointers in connection with the socio-economic and political aspects of the continent. And thank you very much for joining us, Mr. El-Shabani, and introduce yourself to my audience in brief, please.
Thank you very much for having me today with you. Welcome everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Al-Harith Al-Shibani from Libya. I have several years of experience in working in the civil society and also engaging with the African youths. I've been as an ambassador for the African Union. And also, I have volunteered for the African Union and have been participated in the training for the volunteers. I'm involved extensively with the civil society organizations, the youth movements, ensuring that we try to bring prosperity and peace to Libya, and also at the same time bring peace and prosperity to Africa and African nations. So we work on several initiatives, whether it's direct initiatives or indirect initiatives. And that's me. In terms of my academic experience, I have an international relation degree, and also I'm interested in the politics area, and also I have a structural engineering and management master's degree, so a compound of both, of some the engineering background and also the political background. So pleasure to meet you and be here.
Thank you very much. And let me start with this question. And in your opinion, what makes the continent, or why Africa as a continent often fail to fight against the neocolonialism?
Well, a huge aspect that we need to look at is our historical background of several sectors, where if we mention the economic sector and how it has been built and how it has been established, ensure that the systems behind these sectors involved the dependency, I would say, dependency on external companies, external entities, whether it's related to the government or non-government. And unfortunately, if we really want to have an Africa that is self-sustained, we have to ensure that we are brought up with this mindset, first of all. So in terms of education, we need to focus on education, focusing on the youth, the kids, the curriculums, and it has to be some sort of norms that help Africans raise each other and ensure that they provide assistance to each other. So the more or less they work collectively, and this is something that we need to pressure our governments, pressure our parliaments, pressure our leaders in order for us to really have this independency on our own systems and create our own entities, whether it's financial systems, whether it's governance systems, and also at the same time looking at some sort of economic unity. We would say similar to whether it's NAFTA, whether it's the European Union, and many other examples come across.
As you know, Africa has an enormous indigenous knowledge and wisdom within it, and but there are claims that Africa is failing to use its own indigenous knowledge and wisdom. And what do you say on this, please?
I believe, looking at current situations that Africans and African nations face, we have done very weak in order for us to really try to find solutions to several of the issues. If I take into consideration the Libyan situation, where I'm very close to and very understand, the AU and several other African nations have not taken any lead into finding a solution to our continuous issues and struggle to power. And we find that external powers or external players really have a say in the Libyan politics, in the Libyan negotiation, peace deals, etc. and with no echoing voices from whether it's the African Union or whether it's the other nations. And it's more or less it's not one for all and all for one. It's one for one and all for one. You know, it's more or less. I have no issues. Let the other country or let the other state deal with, similar to whether it's companies. So looking at the corporation of economic, sector, and looking at the companies, we find that there is some sort of segregation between the African companies, where there's no really a unity in terms of whether it's an adaptive measures in terms of the systems, how to produce, for example, launch companies, how to be able to pay taxes, whether it's similar in terms of the systems that have been founded. They're quite distinct from each other, and you find it's very hard for companies to work with from one country to another, and there's so much and extensive rules behind that. So no, I don't believe that, and I really hope that we really work towards finding a solution in terms of working, whether it's from the youth side, from whether expert side, whether it's from the media side, supporting, having a more say and also a better solution providers into the Libyan, whether it's Libyan or non-Libyan, at least it's an African issue. Thank you.
People like Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, and also Mohammed Gaddafi of your country, Julius Kambarage Nyerere, Marcus Garvey, and Jomo Kenyatta, and even others had played significant role in strengthening and even creating and strengthening Pan-Africanism. And do you think the current generation are sustaining that legacy effectively?
I see that there is indeed a norm of Pan-Africanism. There are several initiatives such as the African Union Volunteer Youth. Also, we have the Egyptian government, where they have the African Presidential Leadership Program, and they have the Nasser Leadership Program, and other several programs as well, where have been the governments have invested in the past years. And also we have the Pan-African University, where they provide scholarships in several countries, whether it's in Algeria, whether it's in Nigeria. This is a very good indicator, but at the same time, we really need to invest more into having these norms, where we need to focus on young generations and enforce different exchange programs, especially with schools, especially with the universities. That's from one side. Also mid-career professionals, helping increase conferences, interaction, increasing business, increasing initiatives, and ensuring that we provide our materials, whether it's materials for different programs that we're going to be doing. It's going to be internally. When I say internally, it's going to be within Africa, and then this will help provide the Pan-Africanism, norm, and the clarity as well. And I believe in use the power of media. We can use the media to ensure that we have a very forceful, move towards Pan-Africanism, and ensuring that we help our African nations.
Let me also forward this question. Many argue that the internal conflict in Africa opened also for the external forces. And do you share this claim?
We have two internal, organs fighting each other. For example, when somebody enters a kidney transplant into his body, usually there's several, drugs that needs to be taken in order for the kidney to be accepted by the actual body. So given an example in Africa, what is occurring in terms of our conflict? It's making us more segregated. Looking at the situation in Central Africa, looking at the situation in Libya, looking at the situation whether it's in Tunis, it's in Chad, for example, looking at several areas, whether it's economic, whether it's a pure conflict, whether it's military invasion, whether it's a coup, whether it's different areas. All of this does affect our unity. It does affect the secretness of our brotherhood in terms of as a one continent, one large nation, and this is yet to be solved. And we find that different segments, I would say, from the continent is allied with different external bodies, and this will continue to be like this until we really stand, and just to ask for what we really need, and not what they really need. So it's more or less knowing how to negotiate, and being able to unite and to negotiate is one of the best things to do. And I really hope that our leaders from today continue to strive to work on the unity and helping the smaller nation, and helping the nations who are having financial issues, helping nations off from having wars, to really broker different solutions, whether it's financial aids, whether it's humanitarian assistance, whether it's having the know-how, sharing expertise, and all of this can be done within the continent itself. And if we look at, for example, some of the like Kenya, for example, in terms of its way of development, and we have South Africa, we have Nigeria, we have Egypt, we have Algeria, and there are several countries, which Morocco, for example, and there are several countries that we can lean on, and we can really lead, learn from their lead, and just exchange our good aspects, and ensure that we bring Africa to a brighter future.
And Agenda 2063 of the African Union aims to end all wars and violent conflicts on the continent, and including silencing the gun, of course. And my question is, do you think silencing the guns is being practically succeeded in the continent?
Well, I believe the African Union have done some work. This is something to give to the African Union. However, looking at the current situation, they really need to do a lot more. And again, I will give emphasis on the Libyan situation. I mean, it's their influence is very weak. Their solutions to the Libyan issue doesn't necessarily need to be whether it's just an official announcement or a condemnation of what is occurring. It needs to be, real field missions, diplomatic missions in Libya, working with the government, working with the political powers, working with external powers as well, to ensure that the African Union has a say, to ensure the countries involved in the African Union has a say as well. And this is yet to be seen or to be felt by the Libyans. And I would say, and give example to other areas as well in Africa. So the question is, yes, Agenda 2063 are very beautiful if you read it theoretically, and very, harmonized in terms of the accomplishments if we really succeed on these aspects. But looking at where we are, we really need to stand together and really enforce our steps towards where we really want Africa to be. And again, African Union is the body that needs to push all of this and its forces within the countries. So working together, diplomatically negotiating the best deals for Africa, the best deals for the countries, and ensuring that we build the Africa that we want.
As you know, Africa has been suffering from different economic challenges and political challenges, and even social problems. And how should the continent utilize its natural resources, in terms of economy?
Well, I believe that we need to look at the most crucial areas of the assistance that is required from the African Union, for example, and the African nations. So number one for people is food and water. And looking at the water scarcity and the food needs across Africa, this is a very red light to every nation in Africa. And we really need to hold hands together and really need to ensure that water, adequate water and food is provided to all those in need. And then we have, in terms of distributing the wealth, ensuring that the distribution between the wealthies and the poor is sufficient, and there are means of sharing this wealth across the nation and across Africa, in whether it's going to be treaties, whether it's going to be different agreements to share the know-hows, to share the expertise, exchange programs. All of these really have an impact. And also something very useful as well is the big data, ensuring that we have real data, real sufficient data, and not just rely on the IGOs, the international government organizations, where yes, these data could be reliable, but at the same time, we really need to confirm these data within our continent and ensure that we really see where we can really put the money into real work. So in terms of helping the poor, whether it's going to be establishing housing, for example, really efficient and very affordable housing. And then we have, in terms of providing health services, all of these needs to be done in terms of work and in coordination with external members as well, because we do have several international NGOs, for example, working in Africa, and they're really doing an amazing job, and this is something to really give to them. And this needs to be really in parallel to the work of African Union and in parallel to the work of the nations of Africa. And yes, it's a very long step, but I mean, we are within the line. We have done a lot of work, and we really need to push this a lot more.
Great. And the other issue is the African Continental Free Trade Area. Will the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, help the continent to economically improve itself?
I believe the free trade area is a very remarkable, initiative that has been made and thought of. However, looking at the current status, there is a lot of work being done, but at the same time, nations are working towards building their own areas, where we have some of the African countries working on their own free trade areas, where we have different agreements, different unity, and with no names mentioned. But I mean, looking at the north and west and south and east, there are 3 or 4 united free trade areas, where if we could somehow negotiate on having a bigger free trade area, I think we have a very easy job in terms of having a full free trade area in Africa. And I think it's a very, very remarkable thing. And something to mention as well, we need to push external investors, because at the end of the day, at the moment, looking at where money is, yes, we have a lot of resources, but where wealth is in terms of nations and where money is, we really need to be very clever in terms of investing those who really want to benefit Africa and want to build their infrastructure. So using their force, using their ingenuity, using their techniques, and developing our own nations and helping raise the portfolio of Africa. So a connected Africa, this is something very important as well. A connected Africa with railways, a connected Africa with airports, with ports, with sea lines, with small free trade areas which work across Africa and across, helping the global, machines, the companies that are involved. This will really help boost our unity, boost our economy, and really eliminate several issues that we are facing, with in this era.
And some fears that the existing situation, especially the existing political situation in the continent, may limit the implementation of these African continental free trade areas. And do you feel the same or otherwise?
Well, the fact is, as we've mentioned in the beginning of the questions, where there are, several tensions and also links towards the external influence, where in order for you to negotiate power and lead, it will be necessary for you to give, several advantages across other external areas. And unfortunately, having such a free trade, we just really need to sell it in the best way possible, where having a connected Africa, this will help the flow of products. For example, if we have the European products easily flown from Egypt, Libya, Tunis, and traveled throughout Africa, this will really, compete with, for example, the other markets that we can see. And more or less, if we say, looking at Mozambique, looking at, for example, South Africa, looking at the Madagascar, where they have been, other markets are competing in those areas, saying similar to other areas as well. So just understanding how each country and continent will benefit from our free trade area, this is something that we need to ensure that we emphasize and echo to our external partners.
As you know, Africa is battling with the incidents such as COVID-19 and COVID-19 pandemic and climate-induced disasters such as flood. And recently, you know what has happened in South Africa, and also climate change is also there. What do you suggest as a solution, to compensate these all problems that are affecting the economy of the continent?
Having a pandemic such as COVID has really stretched the abilities of every nation in the world. It's not just Africa. Even the best countries in the world, in terms of wealth, in terms of productivity, in terms of the tech, in terms of know-how, etc. There were really, devastating effects to their health systems. And thankfully, with a collective approach, a worldly approach, the pandemic has decreased, and the effect of the pandemic has decreased with the help of a united, collaborative approach. But something to mention and focus on the African aspect, where there are really areas where we need to be having and investing, which is we have the health sector, we have the internet sector, and we have also the being able to really emphasize on our infrastructure, where it did not, have the ability to really reach out until now. For example, we have some issues with the cold chain, and ensuring that we have vaccinations delivered in the right time to the right people in the right conditions. Thankfully, there are several, options that have been developed specifically for hot countries. But the thing is, this needs to be, taken into consideration in the African Union strategy, and incorporating, maybe adding, to pandemics, to the future, solutions, and ensuring that we have some sort of maybe a committee working on future pandemics, learning from our mistakes, and helping build a better Africa. At the same time, openness to such a collaboration with other, whether it's other continents, other countries. This is very important to really help humanity serve better and live better.
Media has an enormous role, as you know, in promoting the continent, and the Western global medias are not presenting the continent in the good side of the continent. And what do you say on this? How media, African media, promote the continent and even defend the continent?
Our media is one of the strongest weapons that we can use. And when I say weapons, I can say very peaceful weapons, because media is able to change the ideas and thoughts of people and thoughts of, if we can change thoughts of people, we can change thoughts of society. Changing the thoughts of society and ideas will change a thought of a nation. However, the world media today is very, very, dynamic, and ensures that specific interests are being transmitted throughout. And when we have this involving our interest, our African nation interest, ensuring that we have a stronger African Union, a stronger united African nations, this is being transmitted deliberately and very extensively to our people in Africa, and also to the people of the world. And this will help really raise our portfolio across the world and ensure that we really achieve a better outcome and better solution for the African nations.
And finally, if you have any message to my audience, you are welcome.
Oh, thank you very much for hosting me today. It's been a pleasure to reach out to our friends and brothers and sisters in Ethiopia. And I really say hi, and you're always welcome to Libya. Anyone who wants to come and visit Libya. And please remember Libya in your prayers and wishes, because we are really facing a very transitional moment, and especially in these moments of time. So thank you very much for hosting me, and all the best.
Well done. And Mr. Al-Harez El-Shabani, thank you very much for your analysis, and we appreciate for your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear viewers of OBN Horn of Africa, and this is all about our discussion with Mr. Al-Harez El-Shabani from Libya. Until next edition, goodbye.